evening, Warriors, and welcome back to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. Hopefully you did not miss us too much. My name is Randy Isbell. With me, not as always, but he's back, Mr. Robert Hagan. Robert, how's it going?
It feels great to be back. It's been, 3 weeks since I was on the show last. We didn't do nothing last week.
Yep. Well, we didn't do the show last week. We did things last week.
Oh, we were so busy. It was crazy. So, but I know giving you and I had the opportunity to give you and Watkins a little razzing as I was in Vegas enjoying the little bit of the afternoon that Wednesday. So
I'm happy to once again report that I beat you at Nationals. So that's all that matters.
Well, listen, here's the biggest thing I saw of it. I did shoot 10 pins over my national average, my championship national average, but I was still 20 pins under. So I don't know how that works out, but that does mean next year when we go to Reno, that I will be using a different championship average, and that will put me in a different classification. So I guess there's perks to being almost 50 years old.
How was your experience down
there? It was great. I love South Point. South Point, it's one of my favorite places to bowl. I've been there. I've bowled that tournament about 4 times down at South Point. So I do enjoy being in that area there. So it's great, but it'll be interesting to get back to the National Bowling Stadium next year. So I'm looking forward to that. But, just spent some time out, and the wife and I spent a couple extra days. We celebrated my birthday, celebrated Mother's Day a couple days later, but it was a good time. So it's always nice to get out of town and not be state testing my students. That's the biggest thing.
So we talked about how crazy our last 2 weeks were, which is why we did not have the show last week, and we'll get all into that. On today's show, obviously, we're going to preview the NAIA World Series. Let's just say this. The field is stacked. Just going through some of these teams, absolutely stacked for sure. We did not get to talk about the NFL schedule, so we will get into that. Obviously, we'll break down a lot of our MLB news, give us our top 5 power rankings and our bottom 3. Spoilers, the Seattle Mariners are not in my bottom 3 yet, but they're getting close, Robert.
God. It's all your fault. You put them in the top 5.
I love it.
And then and hence you will find out my player of the week just totally blew up the Mariners. So we'll talk about that in a little bit.
You will get your huge breakdowns of the NBA and NHL playoffs like you can only get here. Sure. What a 2-minute waste of a 2-hour show.
An introduction to a new segment starting next week depends on what time the show happens next week with NAIA stuff.
But again, NAIA is all over next week, so we will keep you up to date on when we will have our show again next week. AFL, we'll get into that. We will talk about the worst NASCAR All-Star race of all NASCAR All-Star races. It was horrible. The PBA playoffs are now done. They're getting ready for their big NFL league or PBA league deal, and we'll get all into that. But first, we have a special guest who just popped on, and we'll get him in a second, as Darren Trainor, the Lewiston High School coach, former LCSC Warrior catcher, will be joining us. As it's been really good to chat with him after all these games. They had a fantastic showing at state. Their game on Saturday, we will get into it in just a second. Still one of the wildest games I've ever called. I joked many times during that broadcast that if we had created a baseball oddities bingo card, multiple people would have had bingos by the end of it. I think the only thing we were missing was the hidden ball trick, which I need to get Darren to add to his repertoire for his second season. But let's get Darren in here, as he has been kind enough to hop in. Darren, man, how's it going?
How's it going, guys? Thank you, Robert, Randy. Thank you for having me. I've seen the show before. You guys do a great job, so it's an honor to be on.
Well, thanks for joining us.
I apologize that you have to be on with the Clarkson Bantam. I know it's your
I saw the shirt right away.
Yeah, first year with the Bengals, so not too much into the rivalry yet, but that's kind of the fun of the show. Bengal
Absolutely.
and we have a lot of fun. So now 2 Bengals to 1. It just works out.
Going. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Yeah.
So just kind of go through the state tournament. Obviously, the first game against Hawaii does not go the way you wanted. It was a pretty good game, just a good back and forth battle there. Nice bounce back the second game, and again, a wild one to finish things off.
Yeah, a wild one. Yeah, I think it was a new experience for me and my coaching staff being back in the state tournament. It was our first. Our pitching coach Justin Miller has been there quite some time ago, and then for most of our players, we didn't have anyone that had any state experience. So I think it was definitely an experience for sure. We ran into a tough little Hawaii club that was playing with house money and really just kind of outplayed us, and some balls didn't really fall our way. Looking at our club is definitely offensive. We really like to hit doubles and score multiple runs in multiple innings. So that didn't really happen. Give all the credit in the world to them. They outplayed us. They beat us. They're extremely well coached. Russ Wright, I think it's his 10th state title in the state of Idaho. So yeah, we got beat by a tough club, and proud of the guys the way that they came back the next morning against Idaho Falls, a team that we had seen prior in Boise earlier in the season. They played hard. We were able to score 8 runs in the 5th inning in typical Bengal fashion, showing up later in the game, and then just kind of a wild one on Saturday. Cruz Hepburn coming in and throwing 4 innings and kind of bridging the gap, and then the wild inning in I think the top of the 10th there with Caden Daniel coming in to pitch, and then we have first and second, nobody out, and a guy lines into a double play. Who would have thought that coming? And then gets a strikeout, and then Cruz Hepburn kind of sends us on our way. So yeah, it was a wild ordeal, but proud of our kids the way that they were able to just finish the year strong. Although we knew we weren't going to win a state title after Thursday. To come back and play hard against Idaho Falls on Friday, and then kind of grind it out. We didn't play our best baseball against Spora, but there's no bad win in 5A Idaho baseball, so we'll take it. We're moving into the summer, into the Legion season, so yeah. All in all, it was definitely some good experience. We have 11 juniors coming back, or juniors and sophomores coming back, so we have a ton of experience coming back into next year that we'll have that state experience if we work our way to get to that point next year. So all in all, not too bad. We'll take it.
So I was a listener, and I got to throw a shout out to Randy and covering through the river one and doing the sports that way. Talk a little bit about Thursday. I listened to the game as much as I could as I was testing kids. I was doing double duty. I had the Warriors on streaming and I had the river on the radio station. But it sounded a little bit like the wind was playing real bad havoc there, but also what is it to play in a college stadium atmosphere? Do you think that had any effect on the kids whatsoever between the two?
Yeah, like you said, shout out to Randy had done like 56 games in like 14 days or something, just running on fumes. But absolutely shout out to him, just outstanding effort all the way around. But it was windy. It definitely was windy. It was windy east and west, and I think around 16 to 20 mile an hour winds. So that definitely it played a factor in the game playing offensive, which is, there's no secret. We like to hit doubles. We like to score runs in multiple innings. So it didn't play offensive, but I think the kid, playing in a college stadium, I don't think it really played an effect on him. Obviously the playing field is a little bit bigger, but I mean Church Field is huge, so it's 400 center field. So I don't think that played a whole factor in Thursday's game. I would just say, the wind was it knocked down some balls that maybe could have fallen, maybe couldn't have. Well, like I talked to Randy on Thursday, I mean, Hawaii played in the wind as well, and they were able to just grind it out, and they got the big hit in the top of the 6th inning. But looking back on that game, I think it was a huge step in the right direction for Carson Kolb. I thought it was his best outing of the year. He pounded the strike zone. He pitched through some errors that we had in the infield, and just I thought it was his best outing of the year. And I think I voiced this since the beginning of the season. I think he's an extremely talented kid and can be as good as they come through Lewiston High School, like a Julian Washburn type of talent. So for him, although we lost the game, if there was one thing to look back on and be like, wow, okay, we're a step in the right direction. It was Carson Kolb coming out against the eventual state champion, and I thought he pitched well enough to win. So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll look at the seniors leaving the squad in a second, but you talk about Carson Kolb, and that's what I'm really excited about with this team is your pitching staff next year. Yes, Killian Fox is a senior. He's leaving. So is Cruz Hepburn, who, again, was unhittable on Saturday. And I'm still laughing at the mile-an-hour difference between Cruz Hepburn and that last pitcher who got his first varsity experience. But you lose those two, but you're still going to have Carson Kolb, who's just going to be a junior next year. Chris Ricard, who ends up being the league MVP, was, what do you end up with, 12, 13 strikeouts on Friday?
13, I believe, yeah.
He was absolutely phenomenal. Bryce Benching had a very good outing to start Saturday. So you're going to have a great 1, 2, 3 next year as well. So as you said, you have a lot of talent coming back, and obviously you're going to have some younger kids come in and help fill in some spots. But pitching wise, especially, I think you have to feel like you're going to be in a good spot.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, we got 11 juniors and sophomores coming back. We feel good about what we have on the mound with Carson, Chris, too, best outing of the year on Friday, dominant at times, and the stuff is always there for Chris. Sometimes we get into rhythms and lose the strike zone a little bit. But he has the stuff to be a dominant 1-2 type of guy in a state tournament where you hand the ball to him and you feel good about it. Benching had a great outing the last game of league play. After we lost a tough one to Lake City, he came back and threw a complete game shutout, 1-hitter. So a little bit different than Carson and Chris. He goes with tempo and mixes speeds a little bit. Tucker Conkle is another sophomore that we pitched quite a bit down the stretch. We threw him against Rocky Mountain, who was the number 1 team in the state at the time, at the end of the Boise trip, and pitched well. Gave us 3 innings. I think it was 1 earned run or something like that. We're really high on him. He didn't pitch his best at the end of the year, but he's going to get better this summer, and we see him pitching a whole lot next year. So that gives us kind of 4 frontline guys, which is what you need in the IEL. Maybe in the Boise leagues and down east, you can kind of survive with 1 or 2 dominant starters and a couple relievers. In our league, you need 4 or 5 at least. You need 3 or 4 starters, and you need a couple of relief guys that you feel good about. So, yeah, we feel good about what's on the mound. We feel good about all the position players coming back. Kyson Barton, Jared Jelnick. We'll miss Quentin Edmondson's leadership. We'll miss Killian Fox's leadership. We'll miss Zach Massey's leadership. But, we got to develop a shortstop this summer. Caden Daniel will get a shot at it. A couple other JV guys will get a shot at it. But if we can find a guy that can make the routine play and be tough and be the quarterback of the infield, we'll be just fine. So we're excited. The 8th grade class coming in is, I believe, really talented as they come. So excited to get them into our Legion program and get them rolling, get them playing Bengal baseball the right way, and hopefully, shoot them up the ladder here pretty soon.
And we talked a little bit about how stacked this team is. Randy and I have talked many times how deep your team is. What's it going to be like losing those few seniors that that have been that face of your team for a few years, knowing that this is your first year coaching. But I mean, like Cruz and Killian, those guys that have been the face of the Bengals for,
Right.
exactly at least the last 3 years, and, Cruz all 4 years. So,
yeah, we'll miss the leadership. I think that was the one thing that I just continually thank the seniors after the season was, a lot of with a new coach, with a new coaching staff. There's some different terminology, different things that we're doing in practice, different stuff that we're doing day to day, and all 6 of them were the glue of the team. I would say just keeping us all together. Not only leading by example, but leading vocally, on the field, off the field, and just really bought in from January 3rd. We were doing optional workouts up until the end of the season. Those 6 were just the core of just keeping us all together, almost like coaches on the field. So yeah, we'll miss them. We'll definitely miss them. They're all going to be really successful in life, and just really proud of them, the way that they just grew throughout the season. And now it's just time for some guys that maybe lead by example to maybe be a little bit more vocal and step into that role, like Elliott Taylor, Chris Ricard, Jared Jelnick, Kyson Barton. They've been in a state tournament now. They've seen it. They've experienced it. They know what it takes to win a state tournament. It's not the best team. It's who plays the best at the end of the year. And so that's why we just got to continue to work every single day so that we're playing our best baseball at the end of the year. I think Owyhee is a talented club. I really do. I think that are they the most talent on paper? Are they the most talented 2022 5A high school team? Some would say maybe not, but they were playing the best baseball at the end of the year, and they were playing together, playing as a team. So I think it was good for us to go down there and keep in the tournament into Saturday, so we were able to see, wow, we were really that close, man. We were, a big hit away, one rally away from beating that team and potentially playing all the way into Saturday. So it's next man up. We'll miss the seniors. Like you said, they were face of the program. They were completely bought in from the get-go, from a new coach and everything. Sorry, my dog is
okay.
Getting after a toy. Hey, can we take care of that? Thank you. But yeah, it's next man up, man. It's kind of reloading that culture. So we're pumped up.
So you obviously, been around baseball your whole life and played for LC for a couple of years, and when we talked before the season started, you had mentioned to me that you were looking more towards the.
Hold on 1 second, fellas.
Yeah. Darren dealing with the dog.
Yeah. We're good. Sorry about that.
You're good. No, you're good. We were talking about you're talking about possibly going, more the scouting route. So you've been around for baseball forever, but obviously first year coach at the high school level and being the head coach. What has surprised you this year, being a coach for high school kids?
It's a good question. What has surprised me? I would say that how the relationships that we were able to make in a short amount of time, that surprised me the most. We had kids, crying tears of sorrow after we lost on Thursday, just to see that heart and passion and just giving everything that they could into a high school season was maybe the thing that surprised me the most, which I was the most proud of. It's just our kids really gave it all. They gave it everything they could. I'm just absolutely blessed to be in the position that I'm in and to be able to be around the team that I was. I was really blessed. I came into a really talented team that were extremely loose, extremely played together, loved each other. They were absolutely a team from 1 through 18. They were absolutely all together. I would say that was the one thing that surprised me the most, being from California, where a lot of the kids play travel baseball, a lot of the kids play, different travel teams and stuff like that. In Lewiston, they for the most part play all on that Legion team. They all play together. They all play multiple sports, and take pride in putting Lewiston on their chest, Clarkson or whatever, kids from the Valley. So I would say that was the one thing where I stood there, even though we lost on Thursday. I was like, wow, they really gave everything they had into this season, and that's a pretty cool thing. So yeah, that was the one thing that pleasantly surprised me this year.
Now, you said you're from California, Turlock, and the big thing that you probably have saw when you came to play for the Warriors was how much this community is all about baseball, and especially in the springtime. Talk a little bit about how the fans for Lewiston, because they do travel quite well too.
Oh yeah. There's no better sports town. I've never been a part of it. I grew up in a small college town, and it was nothing even close to the support that Lewis Clark State gets, the support that Lewiston High School gets. You think of the Golden Throne game, you think of Bengal football, and just the support, like you said, traveling, because in our league we travel up to Coeur d'Alene, we travel up to Post Falls and Lake City. We're traveling 2 hours everywhere, and there's always fans at every game supporting us. Parents are somehow making every single game. So I would say that was the thing that really drew me to this town. Just like, wow, how special is this? And then we get into the NAIA World Series and playing here as a player, and taking pride in Lewiston, and just the history, and it's just unbelievable. Really, you can't really speak of it until you really experience it, and it's just it's a special town for athletics, and that's what kind of drew me to the position at Lewiston High School, and was lucky enough to get the job. And I can't tell you enough. It's just unbelievable, the support that they get at the high school and at the college. It's something special. And obviously having Jake Taylor and Alan Balmer and all those coaches over there, they were able to let us rent out the cages from time to time when rain was coming throughout the spring. So to have that relationship at the college, it just extremely helped our baseball program at LHS. And so we're really blessed and thankful to be in the town and have the support that we have.
So we'll shift to the World Series as that gets ready to start on Friday. First, have you been able to follow the Warriors as much? That was Darren's first question to me on Thursday. He was bummed that they lost, but it was still hey, did the Warriors win? And by the way, calling the Lewiston Owyhee game while keeping an eye on the score for LC was nerve-wracking as all hell, especially up there trying to call the game next to the Idaho Sports guys. So it's very loud. We had a lot of fun. But for one, have you been able to keep track of the Warriors and how much World Series you're going to be able to take in this week?
Oh, heck yeah, man. My girlfriend is her brother's a pitcher on the team, Greg Blackman. So yeah, I've seen probably 15 games this spring, and I keep track of every game. Looking at the bracket, I think they're in a great spot. I think playing in the opening round is going to help them a ton. Whether naysayers and whatnot, having that month off. When I was playing, we didn't even have the conference tournament. So having that, but last year when I was coaching at LC, we did have the conference tournament. So that was at least 3 more games after the season where you can kind of get your rhythm as a hitter and get some more guys on the mound. Playing in that opening round is going to help them tremendously. Getting into that situation where, like Coach Taylor said, they got punched in the face against UBC and had to come back the next day and play them again and kind of grind out that regional. UBC is an underrated team, by the way. They're going to be really good in the next couple of years. I I love their chances, man. You got Riley Way, AJ Davis up the middle in their 5th year in the program, who, in the World Series, you rely on guys who have experience. It's so important because it's completely different than any other game you've played in, because it's 5,000 people in the stands. It's packed house. There's a lot of this. There's ups and downs and playing to that emotion. Maybe some other guys, some other teams haven't played in that. And so, I'm pumped up for them. They're going to face probably the kid that they faced on opening day, split finger kid. I think his name is Brian Peck from Westmont. It'll be a low scoring game, but I'll take the boys in the Navy and the red for sure.
You talking a little bit about AJ and Riley, both Lewiston boy, Clarkson boy. We grew up watching, called their games. Are they the best duo to ever play the infield for LC?
Gosh, I think defensively looking at it, I think they're 1 and 2 in double plays or something like that. I think both of them will, my humble opinion, I think they'll both be probably inducted into the Hall of Fame someday. So to be able to watch that, they're up there. Me being a younger guy, I'm sure there's some other middle infant. Brendan Ryan was pretty good. So it's tough for me to say definitively they're 1 and 2. There's been some great players that come through this program, but they'll be inducted into the Hall of Fame one day. And for me it's an honor that I was able to play next to them a couple of years and see their development from day one. It's funny, like at LC State, it's a little bit different just coming from California, where like a highly touted freshman would go to I went to a JC. So that highly touted freshman would maybe be not pampered, but coddled a little bit and put him in good situations where he can succeed and kind of grow throughout the fall. And Jeremiah Robbins just took those 2 freshmen and just threw them into the fire and just said, all right, let's see if they got it. And they got kicked down. They got they were, making mistakes as freshmen would, and just continued to battle and get better. And you could see the work ethic in their freshman year. You knew that they were going to be special. And absolutely, you look at the numbers, you look at, everything. They're an unbelievable duo. It's an honor to watch them. And any high school kid, any aspiring college baseball player, pay $5 to go watch them play and watch them in between innings, watch their communication. It's a clinic every day. You get to watch them play because they're so extremely well coached. And they're two of the best you'll ever see for sure. Up there for sure.
That's awesome. All right. So you said you watch the show from time to time. I don't know if you've ever seen us do our sports related draft, but it's a very important part of our show. And since you're our guest today, you get to be our guest judge this week.
Sure.
So I know this might be a little tough for you as a coach because you don't want to prioritize one position over another, but obviously as somebody that's played baseball, different positions on the baseball field have a bit more importance than others. So that's what our sports related draft is going to be, is the most important positions in baseball. So this is my topic that I came up with. So Robert gets the first pick. We each get 3 picks, then you get to tell us which team is more important. So Robert, go right ahead.
Either Robert or Randy?
Yes.
Got it.
So
unless you want to be like Denny Grubb and just pick yourself. Denny Grubb, we have done this now. This is our 19th week that we have done the sports related draft with a special guest. I've won 11, Robert's won 6, and Denny Grubb somehow has 1 win. I don't know how it happened, but it is. But go ahead, Robert.
All right. So I think for me, it's got to be pretty easy. It's got to be the starting pitcher. I mean, this guy's got to be the guy to keep everybody off balance, whether it's a guy that is a flamethrower like Randy Johnson to a finesse pitcher like Greg Maddux. I mean, it's just mixing things up. These guys are the heart and soul of of the defense, setting things and setting the wheels in motion, as you would say. So for me, it's got to be a starting pitcher.
No, the pitcher does have the ball a lot, and it's a very important position. But we're talking to Darren Trainor.
And I know that's why you went that way and why you went with your pick.
Catcher, I mean, it was the number one pick anyways, but catcher is the most important position because now in some levels the coach is going to give in the signs to the catcher as far as what pitches to call. But a lot of times catcher is the one that tells the starting pitcher what to do. He is the one that sets the defense and gets everyone ready and makes sure everyone's set. And to me, he touches the ball even more than the starting pitcher does.
Well,
so those are our first.
Is that it?
No, that's just our first round.
Okay.
We got 3 rounds. You can give us our thoughts on the first round if you would like.
Yeah, I think Robert was handed a fastball there. I think the starting pitcher if you go to it, the starting pitcher might be a little bit more might edge out the catcher. But they're really close. So I think that's 1 and 2. When you're talking about, a 9th position draft, you gotta win. You can't win with either. You know what I mean? You have to have a solid backstop behind the plate that you can trust. And also you have to have a guy that you win and lose on the mound. You can't have a guy that, you don't feel confident in giving him the ball. So I think those are the 1 and 2 most important positions by far on a baseball field for sure, any level.
All right, Robert, you got your second round pick.
All right, usually, and that's Darren. That's normally how that pairs out is whoever comes up gets the best person usually for the first pick. So for mine, and you said it a few minutes ago, it's got to be the shortstop. So for my second pick, it's got to be the shortstop. You called him. He is the quarterback in the infield for these guys. The time that these guys put into their craft is unbelievable. Ranging the way they do, getting up, firing the ball. It's got to be, and it's hard on the body. That's one thing. I remember watching AJ at Clarkston playing shortstop. I mean, that kid could range his motion, but would pop up and get that ball across. But he was also the one communicating with everybody, outfield, infield. So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer with a shortstop there.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that one's very difficult to go against. Usually the most athletic person, especially I never got out of Little League, but in Little League, whoever our most athletic person usually got thrown into that spot. So I can't fully go against it. But for me, the next most athletic person and somebody, you're talking about the quarterback of the infield. How about the quarterback of the outfield with the center fielder who in most places just controls everything. I think Jared did a fantastic job out there when he was in his position, Quentin as well, depending on where they got moved as far as center field and right field. But having the most area to cover, and especially in a high school level, especially where, the talent is there, but it's not where all 3 outfielders are the most elite talents. Having that great center fielder that can really cover that ground is really important.
Yeah, you're both on it. Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Randy, Jared did a great job out there. It's always nice as a coach when your center fielder runs a 4.3 40, so you're just like, run it down, buddy. I don't make a good route. And then like Robert said, where shortstop is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing Cruz's growth throughout the year from day one to at the end of the year. He made some great plays, and the shortstop's extremely important. Also the controlling the run game is extremely important at the high school level and college level. LC is pretty lucky. They got 2 shortstops. They got, Riley playing shortstop, and they got AJ playing second, but they can both easily play short. So, they're both important, man. Really, both really important.
Speaking of Riley and AJ, there's Denny Grubb getting put in there. And yes, Riley Way is second all-time in hits, AJ 10th. AJ second all-time in stolen bases. AJ's been all-time in hit by pitches for a long time and just continues to add to it. And 115 double plays. It's just phenomenal.
Wow.
And AJ also owns the. We talked about that. Alicia and I talked about it. AJ also owns the most hit by pitches at Clarkston. So it's just crazy to think about. So, all right. So that was round two. One more round, and for me, I kept coin flipping between three positions, and I leaned away from where Randy went. I was going to lean the other middle infielder, but I went with the reliever, the closer. You got to have a guy that's going to shut things down or quit the bleeding. As much as being a Mariner fan for so many years, you got to watch. You got to throw somebody in there to stop the bleeding. Or when we had Norm Charlton in there to close out a game. Yes, I said Norm Charlton. Yes,
Charlton. When you talk about good reliever,
when I first started watching the Mariners, it was Norm Charlton there. He was part of that 01 club. So for me, I'm going reliever / closer for my third pick.
I don't know how many times my dad would change the channel when the Mariners were leading and they'd bring in Norm Charlton because he just didn't want to see him blow the game. Norm Charlton. Come on. Listen, closer is important, but I mean, you got to be in the game to make it happen. So for me, and honestly, I think this is what's Denny saying. You ever seen a position player come in, blow a game and catch? God, watching Yachty and Pujols like last week or so pitching has been hilarious. But to me, my last pick mostly went with the high school level. Obviously, it's very important in all levels, but you see a difference, I think, in the high school level more than anything else. And that's a good first baseman. If your first baseman can't dig things out of the dirt, you're going to give up way more errors than any other team. And I think Benching's done a fantastic job of that. At Lewiston, you look at LC with Luke White and the stuff he's done. And I want to give a shout out to first-time state champion Troy Trojans, who I went and watched after the Lewiston game on Saturday. And Bowden Demirlier had some amazing plays, especially for the 1A level. And they end up winning their first state championship, mostly because of him. I mean, they had some fantastic pitching and they had some fantastic plays throughout the field and some clutch hitting. But he saved a couple bad throws in clutch situations, and then in the seventh made a great play over there at first. So there would be way more errors on a team if you had a bad first baseman compared to a first baseman, and that's why I think they're really important. All right. So Darren, now you get to decide, and you can kind of break down some stuff. But for Robert, he has a starting pitcher, the shortstop, and reliever / closer. We'll give it to him. And I have the catcher, the center fielder, and the first baseman. So just kind of go through your thoughts and then give us a winner.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough. I thought you guys were going to go a snake draft. So Randy,
no, we're too mean to each other there, to do that.
Yeah, you guys brought up some great points. I think Robert definitely went on the mound. I think I'd probably go with Robert if we had to go just a straight three positions. I think you do win and lose on the mound, and having that closer at the end of the game to hand the ball to and say, okay, get us a W is important. Like Randy said, though, that first baseman at the high school level, at the college level, if you have a guy with some length, with some wingspan over there, it can just completely change an infield. So I'll give Robert the slight edge. It's very close. But both of you guys brought up some great points. So
here I was thinking I had it locked in because I went with the catcher, talking to the catcher.
I know.
I have to ask you a question though. Are you more of a fan? And we've talked with Denny. Denny is a huge encyclopedia, but I'm still old school. I like to watch small ball, bunt the ball over, and that. Are you a long ball guy, or you like to watch small ball?
I like whatever my team strengths are. If we're speed, if we're putting the ball in play, grind it out, can really pitch on the mound, play defense. If that's our style, then I like playing that way. This year we, hit 335 as a team and could really dang doubles and and hit for extra bases. So that was our strength. I grew up in a style of baseball that is extremely small ball and bunting the baseball and moving runners. I think if you watch TV and watch Major League Baseball and college baseball too, that style of baseball is maybe going out. But I think it's important to have the skills to win in a game like that. So we would practice bunting every single day at Lewiston High School. I think we had maybe 3 sacrifice bunts on the air, but in a game, we at least had the tools and the practice to put a bunt down if the game called for it. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think next year potentially we'll have to bunt the ball a little bit more. And if watching a state tournament game, a lot of those teams bunt. A lot of those those scores are 4-5, 6-5, 3-4. Small 1-run games, especially with the wind at College Vita, especially with how big the field is. That's something that maybe I didn't think too much about going into it, but we have to be able to win those games. So moving forward, that might be a focus throughout practice next spring. Even if we're hitting the ball at a high clip and scoring a bunch of runs, we still need to be able to win those types of games. Kind of like LC State, they hit 340 as a team, score a bunch of runs, but I know they practice it every single day. And on Friday night when they're facing Brian Peck, who's a really good pitcher, I think the conference pitcher of the year from Westmont. So it's going to be a low scoring game. So they're going to have to win in that type of game for sure. So,
all right, Darren, before we let you go, we just got to know MLB team, who you rooting for? Is it an LA team down there?
Of course not. Or? Gosh darn it. No, I'm a San Francisco Giant fan. Parents are from the Bay Area, born and raised, diehard San Francisco Giant fan. Off to a decent start this year, won 107 games last year. Gabe Kapler's got he's doing a great job over there. Farhan Zaidi, rebuilding the farm system. So I'm pumped up. Yeah, we're playing decent baseball this year. I think we're like 22-15, something like that. So yeah,
in a wild division. So Darren, it's been great chatting with you all season long after games and getting to know you guys a little bit. And hopefully we'll see you at Harris Field throughout the week with the World Series. But we appreciate your time, man.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Go Warriors. Let's see it. Let's go watch them win it all, huh? We'll see you guys.
All right. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Darren.
See you later.
That is Darren Trainor, the Inland Empire League Coach of the Year. That got announced today. He actually sent it to me about an hour and a half before we got started. We'll go through the rest of that real quick. But Darren Trainor, Coach of the Year, your league MVP, like we talked about, Chris Ricard. And then your all league members on the pitching side's Killian Fox, your outfielders, Carson Kolb and Quentin Edmondson, and then your infielders, Cruz Hepburn and Bryce Benching. It's a good dude. And very, very big for that Lewiston program, getting him and using that LCSE mentality with how talented that team is. And it showed. Yes, they lost in that first round of the state tournament to Waihe, who ended up winning the whole thing. But it's going to be a very solid program for the next few years.
And what I like about it is he's young. He's got the young mentality. Bring those kids in. I mean, a 2019 graduate from LCSE, and then let's jump in. Here you go. You're now a head coach. Let's bring that same firepower to Lewiston High School. I love it. I love the move by Corey Williams and Kevin Driscoll and what they did there. So, hats off to him. And looking forward to see what he does with this team over the next couple of years, especially how stacked they are.
Yeah, for sure. And he was talking about after that game on Thursday, seeing some of the team members tear up and how much it is important to him. I have a good feeling over the next few years he will see tears in a different direction. Again, Troy winning their first state title, there was a lot of tears while I was waiting to talk to Coach. On that field from players, coaches, family members. It was a very cool moment, and I have a feeling Darren Trainor will get to experience that at Lewiston at some point as well. A very, very good guy, and it's been, like I told him, it's been great to get to know him a little bit after each game and just kind of talk baseball with him after each game. So let's just move on now, as that was part of my crazy week, was, like he said, calling so many games. That was how I ended things, was with Lewiston. But we did have the NAIA opening round. and I was lucky enough to call it on the streaming side of things. So, I mean, you had to pay to hear my voice for those games. I bring a high price. It upset a lot of people that have the price of it. I don't care. That's just how good I am. Apparently, that's not true at all. But we had a lot of fun with it. Obviously, LC does make it through their first opening round experience, this version of the opening round.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that'll get away some detractors. And like Darren said, honestly, I think it's going to help them. Now they've played baseball recently in a high level, playing British Columbia again, and Denny Grubb has been listening. We went through the numbers like every day, it felt like, throughout the week, just trying to double check on things. If British Columbia would have beat LC on Thursday and would have made the World Series, even if they got eliminated after playing just the 2 games, they would have played more games at Harris Field than they did at home this year. Absolutely insane. Like, British Columbia has become my second favorite team. I know during the broadcast, Noah Orr might be my favorite non-LC player right now. I'm very disappointed that we were done being able to see him. He was a lone senior on that British Columbia squad, but his on-base percentage in that opening round was insane. Ty Penner is ridiculous, but all in all, you were able to do PA for a few games. Just your thoughts on the first opening round experience for LC?
I enjoyed it. It was for me also. We had a conversation. I chatted a little bit with our athletic director up at the middle school, and we talked about it. It's just keeping these guys active and playing, and not having 3 weeks off. And I think it's going to benefit. Did we lose one to BC? Yeah, but BC has played very good all season. I got to call 2 of their games while I was there, and to sit and watch another game while they played. A phenomenal team, and to see what's going to happen with these opening rounds over the next couple of years. I'm excited to watch what Lewiston can bring in some of these teams in. And we had some great teams that came in from British Columbia. I didn't ever get to see St. Catherine come in, but to see Doane, see Vanguard there. I mean, great ball clubs.
That Vanguard Doane game on Monday was a lot of fun. It ended up being 3-1. Vanguard left 173 people on base. It felt like, but it was tension every single inning. So that one was really fun. And listen, there are a lot of detractors for LC, for sure. And I am one of those people that think that LC needed to earn their way into World Series playing this opening round. I have absolutely no problem with them changing this rule, and I'm finally glad that they did. But just like Darren said, like, having those 2-3 weeks off from the end of your season until the World Series hurts you more than having to fight through the opening rounds. I mean, sure, you're guaranteed in the World Series, but you're not going to come in that groove that some of these other teams do. And then trying to get back into that groove in a double elimination game or tournament is really, really tough. So I think those detractors, while I agree that LC needed to be in these opening round, are going to be in trouble over the next several years, as LC, if they can get through that opening round, are going to be in a much better group. So let's look at the 10 teams in this NAIA World Series. And just the names alone just absolutely stand out to me. First, we have our 3 first-timers, which is always awesome when you have a first-time team that comes here to Lewiston. As Weber International is the 10th seed. They're making their first appearance. Mid-American Nazarene, they're the 9th seed. They are making their first appearance. What a cool run for them, where they take 2 against Oklahoma City to make that tournament. They have some ridiculous pitchers on that squad. Watch out if the game is close late in that game, because the Pioneers have 2 pitchers that do not give up runs. Their closer, who leads all of NAIA in saves, gave up his first earned runs in that first game against Oklahoma City all year. And then the other guy that is with there, and I'm sorry, I'm forgetting their names at the moment. I might have my story pulled up so I can get it, but he hasn't given up a run in like 2 months. Yeah. And he was including going 2 2/3 against Oklahoma City in that tournament. So it's just, that team could be really fun to watch. And then Westmont, who is getting ready What a way for Westmont to come into Lewiston. You get the nightcap against the Warriors when the crowd will be at its biggest on Friday. Welcome to that experience. Very, very good team. That was a team that when Denny told me it was their first time ever making the World Series, I thought he was lying. I've heard of Westmont several times. They're a very, very good squad. Just first time making the dance. So, and as Denny adds in there, it's the first NAIA World Series that includes 6 former champions, and that's where we'll get into. So you have Georgia Gwinnett, who is the defending champions, and they're the 8 seed, which is insane. Yes, I mean rosters rotate and rosters change. They might not be as deep as they were last year. But they're the defending champions. They went 3-0 in the Lawrenceville bracket. 8 seed. Southeastern, who has been number 1, I think, this entire year. I don't think they've been dethroned from that number 1 spot. They won it in 2018. They are back. Your Tennessee Wesleyan Bulldogs are the number 2 seed. They've won it twice, including back in 2019. Obviously, the Warriors are the 3 seed. Again, these records are stupid. Southeastern's 54-3. Tennessee Wesleyan's 54-6. LC's 53-5. LSU Shreveport, who has the sickest offense I've ever seen when looking at the stats. That's another team that I previewed for the Tribune. They lead in all of the categories. It's just that team is something to be scared of. They're in the top 2 in the NAIA in runs, triples, walks, average, and on base percentage.
Yeah, what was crazy, and you talked about it, and I had saw that too, is 3 of these teams never had made an appearance up here, but for Mid-American Nazarene and to read what they did to Oklahoma City in Oklahoma City and to have them come in, they were the only one not in the top 25 of the NAIA poll. And you've got Weber International, who is 25th. I mean, that just tells you how spread out this group is. But then you look, you've got 1, 2, 3, and 5 of there in there too. You've got Southeastern, you've got LC at 5, you've got Tennessee Wesleyan at 2, LSU Shreveport, and I think and you hit it on the head. I think that's this team that I'm most excited to watch because of how offensive they have played and what they've done. I think they're going to have a great game. That's going to be hard for me to stay at school and work on Friday and not want to turn on my radio and listen to the game, or just like I need to go home and head over to LC and watch that game at 11:30.
Yeah, that game is the one I'm most looking forward to. Now, obviously, schools are going to get a little. They might get tricky with which pitchers they throw. I would hope that they're just throwing their aces right off the bat. But the winner of that game against LSU, Shreveport, and Bellevue, who is the 5th seed? I've moved my notes around and now I've lost where I'm at.
Bellevue's 5.
Yeah. So that matchup in the first round, the winner of that game goes up against the number 1 seeded Southeastern team on Monday. So do they try to throw their second best starter to leave their best starter for Southeastern? I hope not, because your main starter for LSU Shreveport, and they have 2. And the one stat that just blew my mind was, now I got to find it again. Where'd my pitching stats go? Yeah, out of the 54 starts that LSU Shreveport had, 32 of them came from 2 guys. And those 2 guys are absolutely fantastic. Kevin Miranda is 2nd in the country in the NAIA ball with 140 strikeouts. The only person ahead of him, Elijah Johnson from Bellevue, who they will be playing on Friday. I want to see Miranda versus Johnson on Friday afternoon.
Now, you said it a second ago about LSU going to make it to Monday to play Southeastern. I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, I'm not saying LSU Shreveport or Bellevue. I'm just saying whoever wins that, hopefully they weren't trying to save guns to make to get to Monday. I want to see that matchup.
Because here's the thing, after reading, and I did a lot of reading with the Mid-American Nazarene, to watch that club and to hear what they did in Oklahoma City, and to go against Georgia Gwinnett And Georgia Gwinnett's going to have to come in with a big chip on their shoulder, coming in as the 8 seed in being the defending champion. I think both of those ball clubs are going to come out just 100% firing on all cylinders, and they're going to come up against the Southeastern team and give Southeastern, either one of them is going to give them a run for their money, I think.
So the other teams that we did not say, obviously Bellevue is the 5th seed. They've won 1 championship. Westmont is your 6th seed. We talked about that, their first appearance. And then Faulkner, who the 8th straight appearance, obviously just behind LC right now, which obviously this is the first year that they weren't guaranteed the spot. But Faulkner, this is their home. They have won championship as well. So you look at your matchups on Friday. We start off with the defending champions, Georgia Gwinnett against the first-timers, Mid-American Nazarene. Talk about 2 different ways to come into this World Series to start things off. Then I think the matchup of the day, LSU Shreveport and Bellevue, will be an absolute blast. Faulkner and Weber International will be at 3, and then Westmont and LC will close things out at 7, and that place is going to be rocking by then. Obviously, Faulkner loves to show up at Lewiston and make deep runs as well. You had noted that there are 3 Warrior teams in the bracket. Every champion since 2014 has come from somebody in this field. The last team not to win that is not in this field was Cumberland in 2014. Since then, every one of the other championships are represented in this field. It's impossible to predict who's going to win. There are some top tier teams here. Do you think LC has a very good chance of making a run? And who is that team you think that's outside of LC that you would say could surprise people and win it all?
I think you hit it earlier, and I think you and I are both excited for him. As much as I have loved watching Georgia Gwinnett the last couple of years, just seeing what LSU Shreveport has done, I think they've got probably the strongest chance to come in there and disrupt them. And to only have 6 losses on the season, it's just talking about how strong this team is. And I love the way they're set up. They lost, one of their losses was this past week in the opening round. So if it's not LC, I think I'm going to pull for LSU. I really like the way this ball club is set up. So
yeah, I'm with you as well. Obviously, I talked to that coach earlier today. A very, very nice guy as well. They went through a bit of adversity. They lost some pitching at the beginning of the year that they do not have back. Their depth is not fantastic as far as pitching goes. So I am worried about that as far as a run for them. But they went through some adversity. You talk about they had lost 1 game in the opening round. They lost both of their games in the conference tournament. They got to the conference tournament losing once since late February. Got to the conference tournament, lost both games. Then went to the opening round, lost their first game to Bellevue. And then turned around and won their last 4 to make it to the World Series, including a walk-off home run in extra innings to avenge Bellevue and that one. I think LSU Shreveport is a dangerous team. I don't know if they can make a deep run. Obviously, Faulkner at 7, Georgia Gwinnett at 8 have a lot of World Series pedigree. So you have to think that they're going to be dangerous as well. And while I wouldn't expect any of these first-timers to really make a run, you never know. And that's what's really fun about this tournament. It's 10 teams, double elimination. Last team standing wins the whole thing. And all 10 of these just went through a smaller version of it last week.
Yep.
So it's going to be so much fun. Like, I've always been excited for the World Series. And, you and I, we've talked about it several times. We always would go on Monday and go to all 4 games on Memorial Day. And then we try to catch a couple games here and there throughout. But that was always our day. So I'm always excited for this World Series, but I don't know if it's because I'm working at so many different places that I know I will be at most of these games. I don't know if I've been more excited about a field than I am this year.
Yeah, 100%. We've talked about it many times. There's just something about the feeling of having Lewiston hosts such a huge event, and it brings such the baseball lovers to our community, and to see them support other teams. You hear the crowd down there that are, that they live in Lewiston, they live in Clarkston. We see them on a daily basis. They're there supporting Georgia Gwinnett. They're there, Faulkner. Some of the teams that haven't made it back up here in a while. Cumberland. I mean, you have those teams that are used to having the crowds, and that's the thing. I think that's what I love the most about it is our community brings this tournament such positive vibes the entire time. It is, if there's a great play and it's against our team, against LC, you're going to hear the crowd make the noise for them. And that's, I think, what I'm excited about. But I have to say this too, and I know you feel the same way, but we got to thank Alicia. I mean, Alicia has gotten us so involved now that, I was up there early during the opening rounds. As soon as school was out, man, I was out. I was over at LC, and I was sitting there watching and being a part of it. And so hats off to Brooke and George, Alicia, Denny, the everybody over there that has pretty much open arms with us to come in. Here you go. You're part of this team. You're part of this community now. Let's build it. And, dealing with Danner and Mike and all the guys up in the press box, Mark, those guys we work with all the time. It's awesome.
And you're talking about Denny giving us some fantastic stats. 13 of the 198 teams won a title in their first appearance. Southeastern last do it in 2018. I'm not predicting one this year with how deep this field is, but I'm not making a prediction on who's going to win. That's for sure. Again, keep an eye out on R&R Sports Report's Facebook page as far as our schedule. We knew the opening round week was going to be really tough to do a show. We wanted to do it Sunday night just to get it in before the craziness, but you had just gotten back from Vegas. I was worn out from doing a bunch of other stuff, getting ready for the World Series, and we just kind of went, that's fine. We'll go ahead and take the week off and prepare for stuff. We will do our best to get a show in at some point next week or whenever it is. Even if we don't find another spot, it will be Sunday night. We'll fit it in and be able to talk about what we've seen from the World Series so far. So don't forget, if you are new to the R&R Sports Report, you came in to listen to Trainor talk about Lewiston baseball, or you're just excited for the NAIA World Series and wanted to get our thoughts, or you just missed us and somebody else told you about us and you're not subscribed to our Facebook or YouTube pages, please do so. We're getting very close to that 600 mark to get Robert Hagan into the cage and get the training in. And so we very much appreciate that.
You saying that, we've got some big MMA news coming probably in the next week or two. So stay posted with that.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the whole MMA group that we've had over the last few weeks has been absolutely fantastic as well. So yeah, definitely. This is our summer break. We're now a radio show, not on a radio for the next couple minutes. That's not who I picked. Wait, no, shush. Nobody needs to know about the picking part right now. We're throwing Robert in there. But yeah, so we're going to have some fun this summer. We're going to try some new segments. We're going to try this is what we do. This is what we did last year. We tried some different stuff out. Some things stick, some things don't. It's an ever-evolving show for sure. So I was so excited for the World Series, and it's been nice to have the last couple of days to kind of recoup from. I ended up calling 10 games in the 6 days since the rain out kind of pushed things back on Wednesday. I left before the LC game so I could get down to Boise at a decent time. But still, I came back Sunday, and my voice was wondering if it was going to make it through through the day. Let's get into some NFL news. And Robert, you put a bunch on here. So we'll just kind of go through some stuff here. Former NFL player Brennan Langley gets in a fight with United Airline employee on Thursday and is arrested on simple battery. And the employee was fired. What is this story?
So the big story that came out yesterday, it was on Twitter and also on MSN. I don't know what provoked any of it. Nobody really knows. TMZ also reporting and showing this this Twitter feed, watching Langley hit the employee. The employee kind of comes back at him a little bit and acts like he's trying to slap him, and Langley puts him down a couple of times. You see the employee all bloody up. Nobody seems to know why this has happened. So I think things might be coming a little bit more, but Langley, isn't playing. I think he's on a CFL roster right now up in Canada, as that had taken place in New Jersey.
Dwayne Haskins was over the legal limit when he was killed. Depending on the reports, either 0.2 or 0.24. Just still a really sad situation. Obviously, should not have been driving in that situation. Whether that had any role with him walking down the highway out of gas or not, we will never know. Just a rough situation there. Nick Foles agrees to a 2-year deal with the Indianapolis Colts. Should Matt Ryan be worried?
I think it's just a good fit for Foles right now. Coming back to deal with Reich, it was that combination when he was in Philly. I think he's going to be a good backup to Matt Ryan. I think that's who it's going to be. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
All right, Davion Clowney resigns with Cleveland. I think that's a good fit for the Browns. I think he's worked out really well there. Jarvis Landry goes home. He from that New Orleans area. He signs with the Saints. 1-year deal, $6 million. Does that up the stock for the Saints this year, or no big deal?
I think it might help a bit, but I had to put this in there to appease one of my students who's a New Orleans Saints fan.
I thought it was for your wife.
No, this kid, every day he keeps asking me, because I've been in and out because of state testing and all that, so I haven't been able to see my classroom on my regular class kids on a daily basis. He's like, "What do you think about Landry? He's going to be our number one there in New Orleans." I don't see him making a
Does
huge
he forget
splash.
Michael Thomas is on that team?
I don't know.
He hasn't been around for a while, but
he thinks Landry's going to be the number one guy. So I'm like, oh, all right, there, B-Dub. He that's what I tell him. If you think so.
At this point, I think Landry's a good number 2. If he's your number 1, your team's in trouble.
Exactly.
Melvin Ingram signs with the Miami Dolphins. It's with the way teams use running backs now, to have a bruiser like that as part of your running back rotation, I think that's pretty good there. You have a Baltimore story.
I got a couple in there, man. I'm excited. And this one,
go ahead.
This one, I was really shocked as I didn't realize this as much. And this is also for Haley, but Sam Cook announced his retirement here this last week. But he does plan on staying there as an advisor / coach to the draft pick out of Penn State, Jordan Stout. But did you know that Sam Cook played in 256 games, 16 years with Baltimore? Up until his retirement, the only active player with a longer current service to his team was Aaron Rodgers with the Green Bay Packers. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Arizona is going to be on HBO's Hard Knocks, so we can watch Kyler Murray delete more posts live on the show, I guess. I've never really watched Hard Knocks. Have you watched Hard Knocks?
I did, one of the first couple years it came out, but haven't watched it in probably 5-6 years.
And the only thing I remember from Hard Knocks is when the Jets were on and Cromartie couldn't remember his kids' names because he had so many kids. I don't know. I've never watched this stuff. The Washington Commanders spent $100 million on 200 acres in Virginia.
Farther
stadium.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about, building a stadium farther away from Washington, D.C. They're just getting farther and farther, 23 miles away.
Honestly, that stuff doesn't matter. I mean, again, I root for the New York Jets, who do not play in New York. They play in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I wish they would get 23 miles away from Dan Snyder. But
that's the best thing that team needs is they need to get a new ownership in there. So.
There's a 30 for 30 production of a team that had the worst quarterback in the history of all Super Bowl wins. And it'd be
Trent Dilfer.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to watch that. Do they have a release date for that yet?
I have not seen a release date. Everything that I've seen over the last few days is production is happening now as things are. I'm assuming trying to get with Brian Billick and those guys. Also, Ray Lewis just finished up with some stuff that he's been working on, so I know they're starting to do that.
Yeah, so let's count all the votes to get rid of Dan Snyder. Add mine in there as well. Honestly, I mean, I tease you. That 2000 Ravens team, that defense was amazing. It'd be great to hear from that. I'm sure they will skate right over the fact that Ray Lewis was part of murder trials right around that time as well. I'm sure that won't be part of the 30-30 at all, especially if they're going to have Ray Lewis on there, since they have shoved that under the rug as much as possible. But your Ravens news does bring us to the NFL schedule. And we've talked about it for weeks. How excited you and I were ready for the NFL schedule to come out for many reasons, but the most part is you and I run the bowling league. And once the schedule comes out, we can start putting our stuff together. I already have all the lane assignments done. I just got to type them out in a more clear format. It is just you've seen it. It looks like a quilt on a spreadsheet once I get done with it and type it all out. But it also was a big thing because Haley and I were talking about going to Lambeau with the Jets going to Green Bay. We were very happy that it was not one of the London games.
You were sweating it. You were sweating it. I was even up at 6 a.m. that morning, and I texted you. I left you a message. It's like, you don't have to sweat anymore.
So, and of course, then they get the New York Giants at London. So then when I'm reading that, it's even worse. But the cool thing is week 1, sir. And this is more exciting for me on the bowling side than on the football side. Because, yeah, I think the Jets are going to improve this year? Yes. Do I think they're on Baltimore Ravens level? No. So I do believe the Jets are going to lose to the Baltimore Ravens week 1. But bowling-wise, you versus me to start the season, it's going to be a lot of fun. So
are you
Ravens, man.
Are you bowling in the one position?
I'm in the one position. Tony had a better average than me last year.
Yeah, and I moved up this year, and Keith is actually going to bowl in the anchor position. So it will be mano a mano.
We head to head. Maybe we'll have to do some recording on that and post something on the page. We're going to have a lot of fun with that. Obviously, people don't care as much about that first week matchup, but let's just rate the primetime games for week 1. Obviously, not all of the primetime games throughout the year can be bangers, even preseason where they're trying to set things up. But obviously teams will have their ebbs and flows and stuff. But usually week 1, they try to knock it out of the park. And I just have to say, the NFL knocked it out of the park for week 1. We all knew the Los Angeles Rams were going to host Thursday Night Football. Unless you're the New England Patriots, you always get the home game on Thursday night to start the year. They get the Buffalo Bills. Potential Super Bowl preview. 2 teams that are on the rise, I think. And that's a great way to start the season. What say you?
And 100%. That is actually where I'm going to go with my game. I think that's the one to watch. I'm excited to see what happens, what LA can do to come back and hold off Josh Allen, who is easily one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league.
And Sunday Night Football, a rematch of last year's opening night game, just in a different location. Last year it was Dallas at Tampa Bay. This year it's flipped. Tampa Bay at Dallas. Listen, the Cowboys draw. We like to tease Cowboys fans because they don't win anything, but they still draw. And for that to be the Sunday night game, I think it's going to be very entertaining.
Yeah, 100%. Hopefully you've got a healthy Dak, you got a healthy Zeke in there and can go up against Tom Brady. But I think Tom Brady's going to slice and dice a little bit with that defense. So,
And then your Monday Night Football game, and a game that the moment the trade happened, the NFL throughout the entire spring will go through thousands of different combinations for the NFL schedule. Obviously, there are things that just have to work, whether teams that go to London want the bye week the week after. We'll talk about that here in a second. Or, they have different events going on, so they can't be at home this week or whatever. Some things get locked in as far as where they go, and then they come up with a bunch of different possibilities. But I guarantee you, the day after this trade happened, this thing was wrote down in permanent marker. Monday Night Football. Russell Wilson in his first game with Denver is going to be playing at Seattle. It was too good for the NFL not to do it week 1.
Yeah, if that stadium has had a roof on it, it would be blown off. And you look at, I think some decibel records are going to be broke in this game to see how loud it can be to disrupt Wilson. As much as he is a guy that has been there for years, I think this is going to be a proving thing that Russell, it was what Seattle shouldn't have done or should have done.
Mm-hmm. You make it sound like it's going to be a close game.
I think it might be. I honestly think it might be.
Listen, there are Seahawks fans out there that still think they're going to finish over 500. You guys are more delusional than Jets fans. Just saying.
It's going to be loud, and that those guys are going to.
It might be loud for the first quarter, but once they're down 17-3, that decimal level is going to go down.
I think it's going to be a little bit closer to that, 20-17. And that's an early prediction. We'll get into a prediction.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of time to change our minds. But then week 6 is my big week, and who knows what we'll be doing on the shows throughout that, because we haven't 100% locked down what days we'll be gone. But Haley and I will be going to Lambeau Field. Green Bay did not want the bye week after going to London. They play the Giants week 5 in London, and then decided, no, if you give us the Jets at home the following week, we'll use the bye week later. So hopefully that'll help the Jets. Maybe there'll be a little jet lag. I can see the headlines right now for that. But we are going to Lambeau for that game. We have our tickets. We will not say how much we spent on said tickets. But it's an experience that I will probably never forget. We're very excited. We are front row, right in prime Lambeau leap position in one of the goal lines. I'm just praying that I'm the only Jets fan on the front row. So if somehow the Jets can score one touchdown in that game, I'll be the only Jet fan there for them to jump into and give me the football or something. I don't know. I'm excited.
It's gonna be cool, and this is your first time going to Lambeau, but you and I have experienced watching our teams. For me, it was way crazy to finally go and watch the Ravens and be in an environment where I wasn't the minority, and it was really cool. So I know you're still going to be the minority, but you're going to be in some hollow ground there, dude.
We plan on taking the tour on Saturday and checking out the whole stadium and doing the whole works. We had talked about if it had worked out perfectly, I think if it would have been the week 2 game. The Yankees were playing Milwaukee that same weekend. We were talking about, so with it being week 6, the playoffs are going on at that point. If the Brewers made it, trying to get a playoff game, that's not happening after the tickets that we ended up getting. That's just what we're doing. But very, very excited. So let's move on from the NFL and let's get into baseball, which it's getting really close to that quarter mark of the season already. It's flying by. Let's go through your scoreboard real fast here. So far in the books, Colorado defeated Pittsburgh 2-1 in the 10th inning. Chicago defeated Cincinnati 11-4. Cincinnati all of a sudden is getting closer and closer to not having the worst record in the majors. We'll get in that in a minute. Tampa Bay defeated Miami 4-0. In the bottom of the 10th inning, the Orioles and the Yankees are tied at 5. Yankees trying to avoid their first 4-game losing streak of the year. Orioles are just giving them all sorts of fits these 2 days. Dodgers beating the Nationals 9-4 in the bottom of the 9th. Atlanta over Philadelphia 4-2 in the 7th. Minnesota 2, Detroit 0 in the 8th inning. Toronto all over St. Louis 7-0 through 6. Houston crushing Cleveland 7-2 in the 7th. Speaking of crushing, the Battle of the Sox, the Red Sox are turning the White Sox red, I guess is the way you could put that. It's 16-2 in the 5th inning. Scoreless in LA, Texas and the Angels are tied at 0 in the bottom of the 3rd. 2-2 between the Royals and Diamondbacks in the 2nd inning. Oakland with an early 1-0 lead against the Mariners through 2. Padres with an early 1-0 lead over the Brewers at the bottom of the second, and the Mets and the Giants tied at 1 in the bottom of the second. So we joked earlier about how your Mariners have definitely been on a bit of a slide. Your thoughts on your team about a quarter of the way through the year?
Oh, it has been a roller coaster. You start out pretty hot, and then all of a sudden you can't win games that you should win. Boston totally blew us out of the water this past week. A lot of things happening there. But Kyle Lewis finally got to come in, and he was starting tonight, I believe. Yes, we're a quarter in. We're 10 games. I think we're 10 games back, 9 games back right now. Did they?
No.
I was to say
the crowd got me. The crowd got me. Judge hit one to right field. He moved the runner to third, still 1 out, so it was a good hit. But the crowd jumped up, and I thought Judge hit the home run. So continue. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no. So I mean, you look at right now, it's a 2-team race in the AL West, and who would have figured a healthy Mike Trout along with Shohei are sitting 1 game back behind Houston.
Yeah, with 207 runs scored so far for the Angels this year, that's the most in the American League. Team is on the rise. You look at some of the races, and again, there's a long ways to go. Nobody's eliminated. Nobody's locked things up. But right now, Yankees with a 4-game lead over Tampa Bay, 7-game lead over Toronto. Boston nearly 10 games back, but they are on a 5-game winning streak. Make it 6 here when they finally finish that game with the White Sox. But that division it's going to be between those 4 teams. Though Boston right now only 2 games ahead of Baltimore makes me laugh. Minnesota right now at the 4.5-game lead over the White Sox, who are just dealing with a lot of injuries right now. Those are the only 2 teams over 500 there. You already talked about the AL West, where Houston's 1 game up on the Angels, and then it's another 6.5 games to Texas. How about the Mets? An 8-game lead. We're about a quarter of the way through the season. They have an 8-game lead. They're 29-15. Phillies second with a 20-22 record. Central right now, the Brewers are in the lead, 2 games up on the Cardinals. We've said that was a 2-horse race the whole, even in the spring training. That's what we thought, and it's going true. Dodgers and Padres basically tied right now in the NL West. Giants 6 back, and give credit to the Diamondbacks and Rockies sticking in there as well. But thoughts on some of these surprising starts so far?
For me, it's how well the Mets are still playing without one of their big pitchers there, and going to be without him for what they're saying 2 months. They figured that he sure is going to be out. So what they're doing there in the East, and who knows what happens. And Philly, almost 500, but yeah. So for me, it's going to boil down to what happens in those top 2 there in the NL East. So,
sorry, Aaron Hicks just ran into an out at home. Replay showed he was definitely out, so I can't even be mad. Let's get through our news in baseball, and it is about that time. Injuries are happening. Mike Clevenger for San Diego put on a 15-day IL with right tricep strain, though. Good news for the Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr. could be allowed to swing at any time now. It's very, very close. Eric, who was in here earlier, might be still be around, but Wander Franco is dealing with quad tightness. Not sure if he played today or not, but he's missed the last couple days. The Nationals, who we will talk about in our power rankings here shortly, could get Steven Strasburg and Joe Ross back soon. Both are very close to making their first rehab starts. They desperately need them right now. And the Yankees, who have been off to this red-hot start, and we've always said injuries are always the key for this team. Welcome to the injury bug, New York. Aroldis Chapman just got put on the IL today with Achilles tendonitis. He has given up a run in his last 5 appearances. He blew a game the other day where the moment he came in, you just knew the Yankees were going to lose that game. Chad Green and Luis Heel are now both slated for the Tommy John surgery. We talked about Heel just before we went on our 2-week hiatus. Now add Chad Green, which is devastating for the bullpen. Josh Donaldson Joey Gallo and Kyle Higashioka were all put on the COVID-19 list. Higgy just came back on the roster today. He was not in the lineup, though. And then DJ LeMahieu is supposed to be in the lineup today and was pulled for a precaution with left wrist discomfort. So here it comes. Every team goes through it. Every team goes through it. But the Yankees just love to have it all happen in 1 week. Speaking of Josh Donaldson, and I want to get your take on this. He got suspended 1 game and fined an undisclosed amount, as the Yankees don't score in the set, for an inappropriate comment to Tim Anderson, which caused the benches to clear twice on the game on, I think it was a Friday or Saturday it happened. But your thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, Tim Anderson pointing and getting into him. I can feel the frustration. I mean, I don't think Josh Donaldson did anything majorly wrong, but you know, Tim, you know, at that point too, your Yankees have been on such a heater that, I mean, you feel for a team that is struggling a little bit, and maybe he was trying to find some emotion, and when he did, it just, you know, upset Josh Donaldson enough to say, you know, what he did.
Have you heard what he said?
I have not heard the words that were uttered out of his.
He called him Jackie. So Josh Donaldson's side of the story is Tim Anderson was in a Sports Illustrated article or some article, and he said that he felt like he was the new Jackie Robinson because this was back when he was doing all the crazy bat flips, and he was saying he was trying to bring the fun back into the game. And so whatever comment. I don't think Tim Anderson is the next Jackie Robinson, but that's neither here nor there. Josh Donaldson says that he has joked with him about it over the last couple of years. Whether that's true or not, that's not up to me to decide. That's up to those two to go. But he was trying to, according to him, defuse a situation. They had a really close play at third where Anderson was sliding back into third and Josh kind of bumped him a little bit and they got into heated words. So Donaldson says that he was calling him Jackie to defuse the situation. Tim was not appreciative of being called Jackie, and that started the whole thing. Some people have tried to go in a whole racial deal with it. I don't see that part, but I'm with Aaron Boone where, hey, if Tim Anderson has a problem with it, just don't say it. Whether Josh Donaldson was trying to make light of a situation and diffuse a situation, or if he was trying to poke at Tim Anderson, there's just times where it's like, okay, obviously it's gone so far. Tim Anderson is not a fan of this. Just don't do it.
Right. Is this the play where Josh Donaldson basically pushed him off the bag?
Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, crazy.
It's whatever. Before we get into our power rankings, I wanted to have a little fun. Again, most teams now, though, the poor Cleveland Guardians have only had 13 home games this year so far. Cincinnati's only had 15. But most teams are around the 20-game mark as far as home games. So about a quarter of their home games have been done. I want to play a game with you, Robert. Do you want to do the better half or the worst half first?
Oh, God. Let's go worst half, I guess.
All right. So I have in front of me the worst attendance by team for home games. We can do road teams and who brings in other fans as well, but just the home teams. You tell me any of these 5 teams. I want to see how many you can get. The worst 5 clubs as far as home attendance so far this year by average.
Well, Oakland.
Oakland is by far number 30. I'll get into the number in a minute.
I would probably say the Guardians.
The Guardians are actually 26, so they are in the bottom 5. Their average attendance right now is 14,278, according to ESPN.
Has to be the Reds. The Reds are
the Reds are just slightly above it. They're 24th.
So, I would probably lean Arizona also.
Arizona's 21st, over 19,000.
Washington has to be one of the worst ones.
Oh, listen, just because your team sucks, there are fan bases that show up. Washington averaging over 20,000 fans, or 19th. There's 2 fan bases that you're missing out here. that are always at the bottom of these lists.
I would say
Hint, hint.
Baltimore. I would say
Hint, hint,
Baltimore,
there's a-
but
Now Baltimore's 23rd.
I was to say they're
we had a commenter from one of these fan bases.
yeah. I did well. Tampa Bay or
Yes, Tampa Bay
Florida.
is 27th at 13,000. So you're missing
I'm trying
two.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh is 28th, and one more in the Florida area, sir.
Miami.
Miami is 29th at 12,155 fans on average. Oakland, 8,000. You mean the future Montreal Expos? We can only hope. Yeah, Oakland just over 8,000 fans in attendance in their games. How about the top 5?
I hate to say this, but it's got to be your Yankees.
Yankees are
following.
fifth. Yeah, Yankees
Such
are
a following.
36,000.
Boston has to be there too.
No, Boston is 10th. But honestly, I think I don't know their capacity, but Boston has such an old stadium. They have an average of 31,000. That might be near capacity every time.
Right. You got to say the Dodgers. Dodgers should be number one.
Dodgers are by far number one, averaging over 47,000 people. Here was a stat. This is why I wanted to bring this up. You haven't got the number 2 yet, but if you take the difference between the Dodgers and the number 2 team, and you take all of those fans out of Dodger Stadium to equal it out with the number 2 team, you would have more fans that attend Oakland games this year. So Yankees are 5, Dodgers are 1. Who are the other 3 fan bases that really show up at home games?
I would have to say the Angels also.
The Angels are 7th. So they're up there.
Atlanta
is 3rd, 37,800 right now.
St. Louis
is number 2. That fan base is fantastic. They're at 38,468. That's over 9,000 behind the Dodgers right now.
So I'm missing number 4.
Yes.
Number 4. I want to say San Francisco, but I don't think
that's another California team.
So it's got to be San Diego then.
San Diego is number 4. Just for the record, the team that gets the best attendance on the road, the Atlanta Braves at 31,000. In second place, the Cincinnati Reds. Mostly because I'm sure they've made a lot of games at St. Louis right now.
Yeah, I was going to say St. Louis and Chicago. Because they have made pretty close to travel for both of those.
The bottom teams, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, and Milwaukee for that. Yankees actually 25th on that list as far as road, but they played a lot of games at Baltimore. All right, let's get into our power rankings, which is the first time we've done it in several weeks with you. Because obviously you missed 2 weeks ago. We did not have the show last week. So we'll start with you. It's been 3 weeks since we've seen your rankings. Where are your top 5 now?
Yeah, my top 5 is pretty close to, I think, the same as what they were a few weeks ago. I did bump. I have left your Yankees up top, even though they've hit a skid a couple of weeks. I still think that they are there. I do move the Dodgers up to number 2. Dodgers are just they're plugging away, and we knew that was going to happen. They were going to start running away with it. So they're my 1-2. I'm going to put Houston number 3. Houston leading the way in the AL West. And then I'm going to go San Diego. San Diego has proven this one might bite me like it did last year. We had them up in the top, and then all of a sudden the floor fell out, and they fell off the train. And then I'm also going to keep the Mets in the top 5. I had them number 2 a few weeks ago. Injury bug has hit them bad. So how long they can stay up there, they're still leading in the NL East. So I like that. So for me, it's got to be in this order, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Astros, the Padres, and the Mets.
Yeah, one thing I did not put in my news because it was nearly a week ago, but Max Scherzer's injury where he's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. That's really, really big, and it helped me knock the Mets down on my list as well. I still don't have the Yankees above the Dodgers. Partially is, losing the last 3 games, injuries starting to take effect. But again, the Dodgers have done nothing to show that I need to move them off of their number one spot. A run differential of 97. They've only given up 130 runs in their 41 games so far. So no reason for me to drop them from one. Yankees, I do have number two. And then it's a really close race between a lot of teams. But Houston is a team I have a lot of faith in sticking around. Verlander's been phenomenal so far. As old as he is, that's a great number one for Houston. San Diego, without Tatis in this lineup, is sticking right in there. And we saw what they did at the end of last year where they had a complete collapse. So having them still in this race right now without their best player is a good sign for them. And I think the Mets, talent-wise, would be higher up on this list, but not having DeGrom still and then losing Scherzer has me dropping them down. Keep them in my top five, but I'll put them at fifth. All right, give me your bottom three.
Bottom three is, I think I just have shuffled a little bit. I'm keeping Cincinnati there. They've got to prove something to me, and they still have not done so. I keep Detroit also as number 29 spot, but I moved Pittsburgh into that 28 spot. As much as Pittsburgh is struggling, 4-6 over the last 10, and they're on the opposite side of the run differential. Negative 88, and so they've only scored. I think the biggest part for me is they've only scored 136 runs this year, and I think that is second lowest, if I remember right, when I was doing my research.
Detroit's the lowest.
Yeah, so that's where I keep them.
Yeah, so I had two of the three the same as you, just slightly different orders. We both have Cincinnati still last. I'm gonna have the Washington Nationals still here. They have pitching on the way, hopefully. But they are getting dangerously close to having a worse record than the Cincinnati Reds. So I have them 29, and Detroit Tigers for that same reason. 114 runs the Detroit Tigers have scored. I think one of our friends posted something where the Tigers are on pace to hit fewer home runs this season as a team than some of the home run leaders all time in a season. Like Barry Bonds' 73 might not get touched by the Detroit Tigers team this year, which is absolutely crazy. Let's go to our player of the week. And mine, obviously, I did mine today, so a little different than your normal Sunday to Sunday. Is Zach Wheeler did pitch yesterday, but it'll go with the stats that I take. In the last 7 days, Zach Wheeler 2-0, 1.32 ERA. How about 19 strikeouts, 0 walks in those 2 wins for the Phillies? A 0.88 WHIP, which is absolutely phenomenal, especially for a player in Wheeler who struggled out of the gate. He was 1-3. The Phillies right around that 500 mark. Second place is up for the taking right now, and the Mets losing Scherzer could come back down to the field. So the Phillies are going to have Wheeler continue this dominance going forward.
Yeah, 100%. For me, I got to go with the guy that beat up on the Mariners this past week, and he just looked unbelievable. And give me Trevor Story, shortstop for Boston. Had 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, and just lit up the Mariners. He had a 1.535 OPS. So, dude was hot at the right time and go against the Mariners. So,
all right. And how about your series to watch?
I think we talked about it. You know, you touched on Zach Wheeler. What is the Mets going to do without Scherzer? So give me the weekend series between the Philadelphia Phillies going into Manhattan and taking on the New York Mets.
That's a good one as well. Obviously, a 4-game set between the Yankees and the Rays will be really fun for Eric and I to trash talk each other this weekend. But give me Toronto and the Angels, 2 really fun teams to watch, 2 great offenses. That's another 4-game set there as well. So that'll be my series to watch. And now it is time, sir, for the most in-depth NBA and NHL playoff recaps of all time. Are you ready?
Yep.
In the NBA Eastern Conference Finals, Miami and Boston are tied at 2. Game 5 is tomorrow. Warriors are up 3-0 against Dallas. Right now, Dallas is winning game number 4, 72-50. That one in the third quarter. So they're trying to extend it a little bit. In the NHL, the Rangers tied their series with Carolina today. They won the game 4-1. So that series is tied at 2. Tampa Bay has already moved on. They swept Florida. In the Western Conference, Colorado leads St. Louis 3-1. Game 5 is tomorrow. And Edmonton leads Calgary 2-1 in the series. And they've scored 3 goals in the first period here in game number 4. Man, how in-depth was that? You're
That's
not
good.
going to get coverage of the NBA and the NHL like you will here in the R&R Sports Report.
Crazy.
And the Yankees and Orioles are tied now at 6 because that's extra inning rules. So mutter, lightning. Yep, I agree. Just real quick, we'll get some local sports in here right at the end of the show. Look at your Idaho champions in both baseball and softball. Again, congratulations to Waihe. It's a new school. I mean, obviously, it's a new school that they've brought in a lot of fantastic talent from around the southern Idaho area. There's a lot of transferring in. But what a beast of a team, get their first state title. They defeat Lewiston and then Rocky Mountain as the number 1 seed. And I think was it Mountain View in the championship? I'm blanking on that now. Bishop Kelly won the 4A state championship for the 2nd straight year. Marsh Valley won it in 3A. They had last won in 2019. Napa Christian won it in 2A. Their last one was in 2018. And how about the Troy Trojans winning their first ever state title in baseball? It was the second time ever they've even made it to the state tournament. I covered a lot of 1A this year, and the fact that this is the first year they've expanded it to 8 teams. So you get 4 teams from the White Pine League, and you get 4 teams from whatever the Southern League is called, and then they all play each other in that first round. And the White Pine League swept the 4 games. And Troy, to struggle in the White Pine League district tournament and get put in that number 4 spot to go up against the top team of that Southern League and go out and get the big win, and then roll through not roll, but play some great competition there the last 2 games. They did kind of roll against Prairie. Well, it's 22-0, but a great championship game in Tennessee, who was the defending champions. Very, very cool to see. And like I said, there was a lot of tears on that infield after the game from players, coaches, family members. It was a very, very cool moment for that town. On the softball side, there's a lot of returning champions on that side. Skyview defeated Owyhee. Owyhee almost swept these 2 sports, but Skyview ends up winning the 5A. They're now back-to-back champions. Bishop Kelly, so they do sweep. They won in 4A. That's 3 straight for them. Homedale was 2nd last year. They win it this time in the 3A. Malad wins the 2A. That's 3 straight for them. And Potlatch, who was 3rd last year, got the big win in the 1A this year. They defeated Genesee and the title there. So Genesee, good year in both baseball and softball, ended up with 2 runner-up finishes.
Yeah, it's great to see these smaller schools getting represented, especially around here in Idaho. And hats off to those guys. Carson Band softball year came to an end here this past Saturday as they lost to West Valley, so they are out. And as far as baseball, both Lesoton and Clarkson already out for this year's tournament. So, man, I can't believe high school sports is pretty well over.
We got some Clarkson states coming up next week.
Yeah, so a little bit of Clarkson stuff, and then we get into spring football. It's time for spring football already. Crazy.
Lewiston boys tennis finished 4th at state, so congratulations to them. I know the Washington State tournament in tennis is next weekend. Pullman has been dominant. We'll see what they can do at the state tournament. LCSC track and field, congratulations to Clayton Van Dyke, was named the CCC Male Scholar Athlete of the Year for the 2nd straight season, right before going into the national tournament where 23 Warriors will compete for national titles and All-American honors at the 2022 NAIA Outdoor Track and Field National Championships in Gulf Shores, Alabama. That starts tomorrow. Keep your eye on lcwarriors.com. Keep your eye on the LC Warriors Twitter page for all of the information there. And of course, when we come back on our show, I'm sure we'll have a long ass list of what they were able to do down there. Let's quickly bump to the AFL as we are starting to run short on time on this show. And with Eric here, we have 3 winners this week.
Yes, we do. And I
Geelong-
told, I was telling you, I was highly impressed. I got to watch your game there, little highlights of your game. Your team looks very, very dominant. The Yankees must have just won. Walk off
single by Trevino, baby. Bottom of the order coming through. No 4-game losing streaks. Tie the series up with Denny Grubbs. How the hell do we have a week where I'm facing Denny Grubb and then Eric Watkins?
It just happens that way. No, but I was highly impressed with your Hawthorne Hawks. They looked really good. For me, Geelong's just got to put a winning streak together. It's win one, lose one here lately, so it's interesting to see.
Yeah, also, Eric's team gets the big win as they beat Gold Coast 106-87. Lucky. Hey, we just had Trainor on. A win's a win. A win is a win. Yep, Dogs back in the hunt with their big win. Melbourne stays undefeated. They defeated North Melbourne 100-53. That was never in doubt, even before the game started.
Mm-hmm.
Week 11, your local times, and we need to start looking back at the Fox Sports stuff because Fox Sports and AFL are playing nice again. So you can watch some games on the Fox Sports networks. So check your local listings there. But games that matter to us, Geelong versus Adelaide at 8:45 p.m. on a Friday. Melbourne will take on Fremantle at 11:35 p.m. Pacific time. That also on Friday. And then it's early Saturday morning. West Coast will take on Western at 2:30 a.m. And Gold Coast will take on Hawthorn at 2:40 a.m. Both of those against Saturday morning games. And we'll see if Hawthorn can win back-to-back games. Maybe. I'm just shocked that they played 4 good quarters.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into the other sports. We don't get enough airtime. And let's start with NASCAR. God, holy hell. I don't know what that was. I didn't watch this live. I've just seen highlights, and there are no highlights. It's straight lowlights. The All-Star race gets moved from Charlotte to Texas. Luckily, it's the only time they go to Texas here. That track needs to be demolished and burned and never been seen by NASCAR again. What a mess. The racing was terrible. You can't pass there. Even with these new cars, you cannot pass at Texas. And then you have the leader way out in front. And because it's the All-Star race and they want to tweak the rules for it, you have to finish the race under green flag conditions. The leader is 100 feet from the start-finish line, and they wave the yellow flag because a car all by itself is in the wall with nobody around him. Everyone had passed this car. He was behind the rest of the field, and they threw the yellow flag. What? Did you watch any of this crap?
I did not get to watch any of the race. I was too into the PGA, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes. No, but I didn't even see any highlights of it. So,
well, go just watch it. Ryan Blaney wins this race, hands down, up by 4 or 5 seconds. He wins $1 million. Congratulations. But no, because they threw a random ass caution flag, which was not even close to a caution. They have to do the restart. Here's the best part, and the only part that's even entertaining. And you can go watch this. It's great. Ryan Blaney drops his window net because he thought he won. And then they tell him, no, the caution came out. We have to do a restart. That netting on the driver's side window is really, really hard to get on the car.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, even for people on the outside of the car, it's very hard to get on. NASCAR would not allow them to go into pit road and get it fixed, even though it was their goof, and let him take his spot back. So he had to sit there while driving these pace laps and try to get it in there himself. Got it in there well enough for NASCAR to go, fine. Denny Hamlin, rightfully so, and he said he would have done the same thing, and he doesn't blame Blaney for any of it, is upset at NASCAR because he's like, they would have never allowed that in any other race. They just felt bad because of their stupid caution flag. But we need to be consistent. He goes, it's a terrible thing to happen to Blaney, but he needed to have been black flagged. It was a mess. That whole thing was horrible. It was that's what Texas does every year. But we get the Coke 600 next week. Very, very excited for that. It goes right around with the Indy 500. It's that one time of the year where I watch Formula One stuff, and you get 1,100 miles of racing throughout one day. It'll be a lot of fun. But you, sir, you were very much stuck on the PGA Championship. That was a lot more entertaining. I watched the last few holes of that as well.
Yeah, it was a great tournament. Joel got added on Tuesday as Joel and Gino fly back on Tuesday. He does play. Joel doesn't have the best Friday round and it doesn't make the cut. Tiger Woods withdraws on Saturday evening after posting a 79. You could tell he just was hurting, couldn't walk. But hands down, the craziest finish this year, Justin Thomas, 7 strokes down. They had said at one point that he was like a 1% favorite to win it on Sunday. Ends up shooting a 67 after shanking a shot on the 6th and just goes crazy. He ends up hitting a 65-foot birdie to start his run on Sunday. The leader, Mito Pereira, he was leading by 1 over Will Zalatoris and was doing really good. And on 18, they're at Oak Hills. You have to really play, or excuse me, Southern Hills. You have to really play kind of a hook shot, or you stay straight down the right side. And he tried to hook it in there, ended up in the creek, double bogeys to go from first place to missing the playoff. And so Justin Thomas, Will Zalatoris go into a three-hole aggregate style playoff, which I love watching the aggregate. So you get 3 holes. It's not a sudden death one and you're done. So it was really cool to watch that one. So Justin Thomas winning his 2nd major PGA championship. So it was great. It was one of the largest 54 hole deficit major wins. He was down 7 strokes and comes back and wins that one. So hats off to Justin Thomas. They'll be at the Charles Schwab Challenge in Texas this week, so that'll be interesting.
And I'm sorry, how do you say the former leader's name?
Pereira. Mito Pereira.
I felt so bad for Pereira. I thought he was fantastic in his closing round interview after the fact and making no excuses on it. He even said on there he didn't even have the creek in his mind. It was just one of those crazy things that happen where you're 1 stroke up trying to win your first PGA tournament, let alone a major, and things get away. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to rag on him and how could you do that? I've never been in that kind of a situation or even that level of competition in bowling, but I get in my own head in a normal shot in bowling. So I can't imagine what it is like on that kind of a stage. And I mean, you just feel bad for the guy. I had a very good tournament, still finishes tied for 3rd. But yes, that was a wild ending to a sporting event that was entertaining, not what NASCAR did.
Yeah, it was a great tournament all weekend long. So
congratulations to Kyle Troup for winning the PBA playoffs for the 2nd straight season. He took on Tommy Jones and defeated him 3-1. And none of the games were really that close. Like game 2 was pretty close. We got 276 to 257. That one was pretty wild. But other than that, most games were pretty decided in that tournament. Kyle Troup, you get him in the spotlight. He is so hard to beat.
I'm excited to see. So I didn't put it in our notes, but they're doing a family kind of thing. Guppy and him are going to be bowling in a couple of weeks here in a family tournament. So I'm excited really cool to see that.
The PBA Draft League is getting ready to start. That's always fun. Baker style games with the pros and a bit of trash talking going on there. As you put, Kyle Sherman from the house is the first pick for the New York City Kingpins. Who do you got winning this whole thing?
I like that team. I like that setup. Him, Marshall Kent being the kid from Yakima. I love that. The other team that I really like, I like the idea of EJ Tackett. So I'm going to lean Detroit. Give me Detroit. I mean, you got EJ Tackett, Anthony Simonson, Brad Miller, Kevin Williams, and then Del Ballard as the team manager.
Give me the defending champions. Obviously, they didn't do this last year. But the Portland Lumberjacks, Wes Malott, one of my favorite bowlers to watch. Chris Prather as well, one of the smoothest rollers of the ball that I've ever seen. Cal Troop, again, it's a spotlight. Give him the spotlight. Packy's always fun. And Arturo, who's somebody I never had really heard of in the PBA, had that great run in the tournament where both Kyle and Brad were in it. So very fun to see there. Defending champions, you got some guys that just shine under the light. So I'm going to take the Lumberjacks to defend their title. All right, sir. Give me a couple of this week in sports history. Might be our last one.
This is going to be our last one because we're going to change the segment a little bit. But a couple of this week's in history. 1930, Max Bishop draws 8 walks in a double header. And 1935, the NFL takes and adopts an annual college draft, and the draft begins in 1936. 1995, Disney announces it's buying 25% of the California Angels. And 1996, Ken Griffey Jr., at age 26, is the 8th youngest to hit 200 home runs.
Crazy. All right, you got a trivia question for me?
No, actually, I want to introduce this. I want you to solve the new segment. So this is what the new segment is. It's going to be called Who Am I? And what I'll do is it'll be based on something that happens with either a sporting event. So I'm going to follow it, or a birthday or a death. So this one happened to be a birthday not too long ago. So who am I? I was born in Williamstown, North Carolina. I grew up on a farm with one brother and one sister. I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I averaged nearly 30 points and 20 rebounds per game. And my team went 94-8 in the time in high school career. Turned down dozens of basketball scholarships and was a state champion with his brother. Went on to college at Campbell University. Started playing his career with the Alpine Cowboys. I played for 8 different major league teams between 1962 and 1983.
Oh, of course. You're picking somebody that played before I was even born. This is crap.
I am a Hall of Famer. I am a 5-time All-Star and 2-time Cy Young winner.
Here. Denny Grab, if you're still out there, help me out here.
I am ranked 90. I was ranked 97th in 1999 on the top 100 greatest baseball players, according to the Sporting News. I won over 300 games, winning 314. One of only 24 players to have more than 300 wins. My 300th win was with the Seattle Mariners over the New York Yankees in a complete game 7-3 score. I am most known for a pitch. Who am I?
You're an old man.
I
have no idea. So I was looking at this earlier. I was looking at this earlier, trying to give myself any idea. I love this. Ooh, knuckler, maybe. Is it a knuckle pitch? Is a knuckleball? Is that the pitch?
No.
Gaylord Perry. Is Denny right? Denny, this is your segment, man. Gaylord Perry.
I was
old people.
His birthday was a couple weeks ago. I was so hoping Denny was still staying on to see if he was part of the Who Am I? So I'm trying to figure out how I want to ease into it to see if some of these people would know it.
So Denny, Eric, send us messages throughout the week as far as ways to tweak this. I love this instead of a trivia. I think you need to do these in tiers, is my idea. So you probably had, 12, 15 facts here on the guy?
Yeah.
I would do like 3 each tier and see if we can guess. I now have 2 wins. This is Denny. Denny's just taking over our show, and I would have no other way. So, yeah, maybe do it in tiers and just do 3 of them and see if we can get a guess in there. And then, and my other suggestion is don't put it on our show notes. I don't want to have any prior knowledge, but I think it's a really fun tweak. And again, this is what we're going to do this summer. Come up with silly games to play, especially after the World Series. when things really slow down, there's not as much local sports. We'll try to get on some coaches and players and stuff throughout the summer just to BS and have some fun. But that's what the summer thing is about. But that is going to do it for this show. So glad to be back. I definitely missed it last week. Again, keep your eye out on the Facebook page for when we will be doing it next week. Obviously, with the World Series going on, the schedules are going to be cramped. There is a decent chance we will do this Sunday night. But again, nothing will be set yet until we kind of see the rest of our schedules. I have a radio meeting on Thursday to kind of find out what games I'll be doing for them. I'm sure the Tribune will start coming out with schedules and stuff as we get closer to the events as who's going to cover what games.
I have 7.
Yeah,
So
we're going to be busy, and I'm very, very excited for it. I'm very excited for this tournament. Thank you to Darren Trainor for coming on for 30, 40 minutes with us and talking to us in baseball. And, of course, getting ready for the World Series. And Denny Grubb, Eric Watkins, thank you so much for you guys' contributions today. We very, very appreciate you guys chiming in, especially for this new segment. I'm going to need you guys every single week. I just have a feeling. And now I have to go to the drawing board and try to get revenge on Robert with a different segment. I got to come up with something, but we'll get there.
You're
But
just
for now,
bitter. You lost this week. Darren picked me as the trivia.
I really
or
thought
the
picking catcher with the catcher was my trump card, but I don't disagree with him about the starting pitcher as well. So we'll be back at some point next week. Again, possibly Sunday. Robert will have your sports-related draft. We'll have another Who Am I? We will talk about what the World Series is going through so far and what we expect the rest of the way, and so much more. So glad to be back. That's Robert Hagan. I'm Randy Isbell, and we just want to end the show. I know it's a dour note to do it. I didn't want to start the show with it, but our thoughts are out there for all of those affected with the horrible incident that happened at Robb Elementary School down there in Texas. None of these situations are easy to talk about. We're not going to delve into anything other than that, other than our thoughts are out there. And it's just not one of those news stories you ever want to read. But that's all we're going to say on the matter. But we'll be back next week, and we're out.